Welcome to this watercolor tutorial where we go over a lot of wet on wet technique with the truck and a little bit of wet on dry with the pumpkins. If you want to just focus on the painting itself and not worry about sketching, you can go to the description below where you can download this sketch on my website. Let's get started. Okay, so I'm gonna come in with some blue here, and because it is wet, you're gonna see here, it's gonna blend out. See that? The wet on wet technique is how you can create some nice soft blends within your artwork. You'll see here my two bumpers, I'm going to leave it open. I'm going to let there be some white space here. I'll come back to it in a sec. So when you're using the wet on wet technique, you're going to want to move quickly because watercolor paper does dry pretty quick. I'm using Arches watercolor paper, so I feel like I have a little bit more time to leave things. But if you're using a beginner paper, then definitely you're going to want to move at a better pace. Beginner paper does dry a lot quicker. So I'm going to come in now. I just have a damp brush. And I'm going to start scooping up some of that color that I just put down. So that I have some nice highlight and even just contrast almost within my painting. Okay, I feel pretty good about that. I'm going to come towards the top here, and I'm going to apply a nice blue color. And I'm definitely going to be working very quick up here because I'm going to do the scooping technique. And if I let this dry, it gets a lot harder for me to be able to do that. Okay, get rid of everything on my brush, tap my napkin, and I'm going to scoop. I'm struggling here with my paintbrush. I can even, while it's still wet, come around my edges and tap in a deeper, stronger color and let it blend. This is still kind of damp, so I can come around my edges here. So I can see my ink marks. So I'm just following them around. I get rid of everything on my brush. I'm just going to kind of help blend this out. Touch. And I'm just designing the back of the truck. Using water to blend out any harsh lines. So I'm able to get this effect because my page is not that dark right now. Damp, sorry. It's not that damp. So I'm able to get my lines nice and crisp. But if you're finding that you're still getting lots of bleeding, your page is too wet. So just give it a couple minutes to dry. So I'm following along my lines, shadowing different areas and letting them stand out. There we go. So now I can move on to my bumper as long as this part is dry. So I'm just going to go ahead and dry it really quick. I just had to change the focus of the position because the focus of my camera kept just coming in and out, making it blurry. So I've moved my camera a little bit further back. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is, again, I'm going to come in with some water here. And I just have a little bit of pink on my brush because I just mixed the red. I'm going to do that wet on wet technique again. So I'm going to come in with some red and I'm going to come around my edges this time and let it just softly bleed into my middle. I'm going to touch the bottom a little bit more and I'm going to leave a little bit of an open space. And I'm going to do the same around here. And the same thing as before, if you have too much water on your brush, you're going to have no control. You can even come in with a damp brush and scoop and lift some color if you just put too much. I'm going to come in with a little bit more of a vibrant red and touch different parts as well while it's still wet. Okay. So the next thing we're going to do is our bumper. I'm going to do my bumper nice and gray, so I'm going to mix up some black and just put like a ton of water inside of it. And then same thing, I'm going to come in with some watered down gray. I'm going to try and not touch that red because I just realized it's probably not been long enough. I'm going to try to avoid touching that red right now. Give it a couple minutes to dry. So I'm going in with a very nice soft gray color. Because I'm going to come in with darkness around my edges and let it blend out like I've been doing. Okay, grabbing a darker, I can come around my edges here, underneath my license plate, shadowing different areas. But I want my center to be nice and bright, or at least a lighter gray. So I'm going to get rid of everything on my brush. Again, I feel pretty good about how this has turned out. So I'm going to move on to the next part. So now that my truck is most likely dry, I am going to dry this bumper just because I have a habit of smudging. I'm going to work on the reflection. So I'm going to come in with a darker grayish bluish color and I'm going to come around my pumpkin. So I want this color to be a little bit different. And this is going to be the window. I'm going to get rid of everything on my brush. I just left a little bit of white space. I'm going to blend it out. I'm going to come around again, my pumpkin. I'm going to blend it out with just some water on my brush. So if you're wondering what size brush I'm using my size 4 right now. I don't actually love this brush. I feel like this brush size, I feel like I have not as much control over my blending, but I'm using it for now. I typically like to just paint with my size 8. Okay. This needs to be a little bit darker right here. Okay, now that I'm finished with that, I want to just give a little bit more emphasis to this area. So using that wet on dry technique, I'm using the very tip of my brush to just emphasize the design that was in the back of the truck. And then the next thing that I'm going to do is use a nice gray color to just fill in the wheels, the rims. And I'm gonna let this dry before I put down any black for the wheels. Okay, now we're moving on to the pumpkins. So before I did every single pumpkin one by one, but it takes a really long time. And this painting I want to be very light and airy. So I'm gonna come ahead and I'm gonna paint everything orange. Even the stems that are overlapping, I'm just gonna paint orange, because I can always just paint my darker brown color over top. I think when I first painted this with the wet on dry technique, it took me, I don't know, probably 2 hours, maybe even longer. But I loved it. Okay, so now what I can do is I can come in with a damp brush and I can scoop up for a highlight. So I'm scooping up different pumpkin areas. So I still have a light source. I'm going to come in with a little bit more of a pigmented red and yellow for my orange. I'm going to touch along the base, let that spread out. I can touch the top of these pumpkins to create a nice shadow. And again, I'm able to do this technique because my page is not completely saturated with water. Otherwise, I wouldn't have that much control over where everything kind of went. I'm just gonna fix this little part right here. Some orange went into my blue. And I can just blend out my shadows a little bit. Okay, this is a good first base. So I'm gonna dry it. I'm gonna apply some of the brown so I can see brown and green so I can see where my stems are. So here's a stem. Here's a stem. Right here's a stem. Right there's a stem as well. Okay, we're gonna scoop up a little bit for a highlight. Just a little bit. So now I can start the highlight of my pumpkins. So the pumpkins that are further in shadow, not just a highlight. The pumpkins that are far behind, I want to get behind and just shadow that much more so they look like they are getting tucked behind. This area right here is going to be shadowed and tucked behind. And I'm just touching this line now with some water to blend it out. This area right here. So I'm following around my pumpkin. This one's very much in the back of both of these, so that whole area will just naturally be a little bit darker, blending out any harsh lines. And I'm leaving the pumpkins that are supposed to be more in the front untouched, so that way they look as though they are closer to me, and the ones that are further away are darker. Now you can kind of see the outline of my pumpkins. So I'm gonna dry this. I gotta mix up a little bit more orange here. And so I can just really have fun with this and make this as dark as what I want it to be, or as light as what I want it to be. Some of these I'm going to pull in a little bit more of an orangey tone so the pumpkin just looks more orange. But always trying to leave a light source as well. I want there to be a light part of my pumpkin. And I'm just using water to just blend it out. What was the other pumpkin? This was the other pumpkin I want nice and orange. I'm just blending. Make some pumpkins up here, nice and shadowed. Mixing up again a different shade of orange. And blending it out with some water. Okay, I'm gonna dry this. And using a little bit of brown into my orange, I'm gonna come in and I'm just gonna paint on some of the grooves. For my pumpkin. And then I do want to make my stems stand out a little bit more, so I can just come in and just add a little bit more brown. So when I'm doing this, I'm using the very tip of my brush, and I'm not completely covering everything, otherwise it'll just make the brown darker. I'm leaving some gaps so that first layer of brown can shine through. And I might even just come in with a little bit of a darker brown as well. Just one more time. To just make it pop. Okay, cool. So the last thing to do is just to put a little bit of a shimmer and shine onto, let's actually add a little bit of yellow. onto the license plate. I'm going to be leaving some nice white space, so I'm just shadowing around it. I'm just going to add some water. Doing some blues. I put in a little bit of yellow, just a little bit, just to make it a little bit different, but making sure that I'm leaving some nice white space as well. All right, now for the wheels, last step. Now, I don't want to come in with just full black. I think it looks kind of silly. So I'm coming in with a nice gray, especially because I've gone so soft with the rest of my painting. I don't want to just pull the focus onto the tires. Coming in with my black, I am going to touch in some areas here. And letting that blend as it goes. Okay, cool. I'm pretty happy about this. It's a very fun painting to just practice the wet on dry technique and the blendings and all that fun stuff. If you've liked this video and you want to paint along with more videos, subscribe to this channel and then check out my website as well for more sketches that you can download as well. Happy painting!